Hello, class. We will be presenting the PESTEL analysis for the country of Liberia. Our group includes myself, Alaric Jackson, Jeremiah Stewart, Anthony Pierson, Mathew Jones, and Orrin Myrick. To begin the PESTEL analysis, we first will look at the political environment for Liberia. This includes the leadership and nationalism of the country. The leadership within Liberia is very unstable due to the fact that in 2021, the PLP removed Mr. Wilmot Pay due to his violations of the Constitution. Liberia is currently being led by President Wahey, but they are still struggling to recover from health pandemics such as Ebola and COVID-19 and other social disparities such as depletion of natural resources and allowing them to develop a more stable government for Liberians. As far as nationalism, African Liberians and American Liberians are at war constantly within the country. Americo-Liberians claimed independence from the indigenous people in 1847. However, most recently, the One Liberia Project has developed the Unity and Diversity Project to help unify African Liberians and American Liberians. Due to this social divide, this can affect American buying behavior. For example, in 2003, the US invested over $1 billion in bilateral assistance to help with economic growth and development for nationalism within the country. And the State Department's Office of Global Women Issues invested $750,000 since 2013 to fund projects for nationalism efforts within Liberia. The political environment also discusses the violence, terrorism, war, and corruption topics within the country. For violence, terrorism, and war, the Civil War caused 250,000 deaths and over 1 million Liberians were displaced due to unemployment and unstable living conditions. Due to this caused a delay in transportation efforts, which disrupt the supply and commodity exports for the country. And this also caused a spike in trade tariffs because US feared that their imports were at risk due to the volatile conditions. For the corruption, CPI score for Liberia, they scored a 28, which is highly corrupt. Due to this highly corrupt score, this can lead to a very difficult market entry, and it affects how the imports and exports are transported due to risks such as truck overload and bribery. And this also affects a stall in political development due to the fact that education fraud is very high within the country. I will now pass it on to my colleague, Anthony, to discuss the economic environment.
So Liberia was one of the hardest hit countries by Ebola and also COVID-19. Despite the country's natural wealth and the resources such as iron, ore, gold, diamonds, etc., Liberia is one of the poorest countries in the world. There are over 1.6 million Liberians who are below the poverty line, and also over 600,000 Liberians who are in extreme poverty. Liberia is currently rebounding after contracting for 2 consecutive years. As you can see on the graphs here, in 2019 and 2020 were both the years that Liberia's GDP contracted. And as of 2021, things got back on track as far as the gross domestic product growth. As far as job growth and outlook, there are 3 main projects that are currently, Liberia is currently working on. This consists of the Less App project, the Realize project, and the Lift project. The Less App project focuses on bringing sustainable electricity to over 600,000 Liberians. This will also create job opportunities for more Liberians. The Realize project is a project which focuses on business grants and skills to over 4,000 Liberians who are in poverty. It also will provide temporary employment to over 15,000 Liberians who are in extreme poverty. And the Lift project focuses on the investment climate of Liberia. This focuses on things like financing from banks, which will help support the investment climate in Liberia. Next slide, please. So Liberia has been in a civil war for 14 years. And also from the prolonged impacts of Ebola, they're still rebuilding their educational system still. Not many kids are in school, not many finish school. As far as youth support, there are the USAID Advancing Youth Project is focusing on just providing opportunities for both in-school and out-of-school Liberians. And also the University of Liberia and Cuttington University are focused on building centers of excellence for Liberians. This will give them, places just to be creative or goal. It basically will keep them out of trouble, and also it will provide a number of them with skills, which was enhanced skills in engineering and agriculture. And now I will pass my colleague, Orrin.
Today I will be talking about Liberians' income and discretionary spending. So the average monthly salary in Liberia is in range of 71,000 in Liberian dollars, which is $475 in US dollars. And the annual salary is about 1,789,431 Liberian dollars, which is almost $12,000 a year in US dollars. And Liberians' necessities include groceries, food, utilities, insurance, and clothes. And then for Liberia's market entry, they have a lot of binding constraints, which includes the poor road conditions, being that Liberia won't be able to transport and trade certain items in an efficient and effective amount of time. The poor roads also make the trucks undrivable at times, so the businesses have to buy new trucks to transport their product, but this has been proven to be very expensive. In Liberia's pricing strategies, the pricing of certain goods were changed by the Liberian government, which made the products that were really affordable become more expensive, which caused businesses to overrule one another, which eventually led to corruption. And then for their global success strategy, they failed to reduce poverty because there was so much corruption within the government, along with many other sectors. And I'll pass to my colleague Jeremiah.
I'll be speaking on the social institutions and the social cultural environment for family. A marketing example would be Libco, a family-owned rubber business, enlarges their production along coastal Liberia, making their export values rise when negotiating with other countries. For religion, the market isn't affected by the country's decisions. Countries still maintain business partnerships. For the school, the chances of solid education are slim to none in urban areas, while most kids attend in the capital. With there being a high literacy rate, over 48% of teens to adults primarily don't receive primary or secondary education. For the media, United Nations media in Liberia made over 760 mil when the Liberian government budget was 61 mil. The excess money was used to support neighboring countries to aid after Civil War. I'll be passing it to my colleague, Matt.
So for this particular slide, I will be talking about the individualism and collectivism. So in like Liberians have a culture that really accepts collectivism. Children are trained to work hard and support their elders in their old age, in their family and community. Even in this community, you are supposed to include friends as their own brothers and sisters. And for the power distance, the score is very high. It's in the 80s into 100s. And though this shows that it's a huge gap between the rich and poor, there's no middle class. The country is building to grow a middle class through empowering the entrepreneurs and creating more jobs. And for uncertainty avoidance, the Liberia is in a state of rebuilding since the end of the Civil War, as the justice system laws are being reformed by the people for more clarity in the legal system in order to have more trust for it. And the rank for for Liberia is very low, and that shows that they are comfortable in uncertainty situations when referring to marketing globally. And the communication style for Liberia is high context. So this shows that Liberians are very indirect when they communicate with each other. Now I'll pass it on to my next colleague, Alaric.
Today I'll be talking about Liberia's technological infrastructure. So at the end of the 2003 war, Liberia's electricity generation, transmission, and distribution assets were all destroyed. There's very few electric grids, and citizens do not have access to computers. There is a project they are working on to target a key area in which grid electrification, and the project is called the Lessa for short, and it deals with a goal to provide sustainable, reliable, and affordable electricity to over 600,000 Liberians. The project will rehabilitate and expand electricity infrastructure and provide sustainable solutions for electricity access. The LESAP will target two main key areas, which is grid electrification in the greater Liberian area, and provide for a sustainable business model called scaling up renewable energy based on mini grids and standalone solar systems in remote areas. And then Liberia's product strategy, they have poor infrastructure, which inhibits its economic growth. For example, Liberia's roads are so horrible that they block access to farms for farmers to transport their produce before it spoils and goes bad. And due to the tariff being high for electricity, for example, Liberian citizens tend to steal power because there's a huge demand for electricity. But since citizens steal power instead of paying for it, utility companies' demand doesn't get met. And then I'll pass to my colleague, Anthony.
Given the importance of technology for modern economic growth, Liberia's poor technological infrastructure will make a company's promotion strategy challenging. For one, this will limit the online presence. Not many citizens have phones, internet, or computers. So this will make targeting certain audiences using modern day promotion techniques a lot more difficult. It's also less market growth and potential for a company as far as the online world and the perks of having an online technological company. Also, the laws that relates to contracts and the goods and services of Liberia, the laws that are meant to protect the goods and services and contracts are poorly enforced, and also unorganized promotion programs. As far as the distribution and supply chain, poor infrastructure will cause disruption in the chain of production, distribution, and access. Also, companies would have unsustainable water and electricity access. And it also poses a real-time challenge for business operations. This means like the timely manner in which things are done, delivered, picked up, ordered, etc. I now will pass to my colleague, Orrin.
Next, we're going to take a look at the environmental environment. So Liberia has an average temperature as a high of 94 degrees and a low of 77. They normally experience a wet season during the months of May through November and a dry season through the months of November through May. Liberia is built on a combination of plateaus, plains, and forests. The environment is loaded with diamonds, gold, fertile soil, fishery, forestry, and iron. However, due to financial constraints, the land's resources are rarely tapped. Next slide. Next, we're going to take a look at the climate and topography, the effect of the climate and topography. So when looking at the market entry, climate plays a factor because high heat places limitations on what crops can and can't be grown. The topography, 1 meter of water can cause a loss of 95 square kilometers of land. Liberia already doesn't have a lot of land to start with that they can't use for fertile soil. So 1 meter of loss of water causing so much loss of land can be a big problem for Liberia. The global success with rainfall increasing in the wet seasons, meaning more flooding, and decreasing in the dry, meaning more droughts, it's kind of difficult for Liberia to grow agriculture as a whole. And then we can also see that with the rising sea levels being predicted to cause $14.2 trillion worth of damage, that's damage to Liberia's roads, Liberia's land, Liberia's airports. That literally places a big halt on the success of the globe, of Liberia globally. The product strategy, so with increased floods means the quality and the quantity of agriculture goes down. So now there needs to be new plans on what can and can't be grown. And with the topography, with the high hills and valleys causing humidity, this also is another limiting factor that is placed on Liberia for what crops can and can't be grown. The supply chain strategy is affected by the climate because Liberia runs on agriculture. So with more rain, meaning more flooding, which means that there's a great chance for the quality of the crops to go down. And the same with the drought. With less water, with less rain means less water for the crops, meaning that it's harder to grow quality crops. Liberia's supply chains can essentially be put to a halt. And then with the coastal plains being greatly affected by the rise in sea level, we can see that this puts a major limit on Liberia's supply chains because there's not too much that can be done outside of the loss. Next, I'm going to pass it to my colleague, Mathew.
How the legal environment affects marketing law is when deceptive marketing practices that relates to the sales of goods and services. Marketing laws or regulations in Liberia are very modern in West Africa. The two examples are copyright infringement and false advertising. The first example is since 2016, they finally have rights for any copyrighted material to be protected. Before 2016, it wasn't protected at all. For the second example is false advertising. Any firm or lawyer, it is a violation to do any type of legal advertising in Liberia. It goes against the code of professionalism ethics. So for intellectual property challenges is very poor in Liberia and it's very weak. Intellectual property is a work or invention that is a result of creativity or applied for a trademark. The two examples are infringement is very common in Liberia pertaining to selling counterfeit drugs and mobile phones. Secondly is Liberia's intellectual property office lacks the support of a strong government to enforce protection. Next slide, please. So for this particular topic is called taxes. Taxes are the amount of money that a government requires to pay according to their income, the value of their property. The income tax rate is 25%. And the two examples are withholding taxes are made to certain residents based on their certain classes of income that is earned. And in Liberia, there are no payroll taxes. And for the United States, businesses will have to pay high taxes dealing with their average tax rates in Liberia. And for robbery and extortion, following the chart shows the effects of robbery rates within 2012 to 2022. And there was a countrywide report going by 77% of Liberia were bribed by the police. After doing extensive research, there is a graph of robbery rates. It was said that the police were not bringing home enough money to support their families. They will extort money from cab drivers, street vendors, and motorcycle taxis, and it affected cash flow from as low as street businesses. I'll pass it on to my next colleague, Jeremiah.
I'll be focusing on the legal environment. For the market entry, exporting is their primary method due to flexibility and it's less risky. Product strategies, products consist of rubber, ice, gold, diamonds. The strategy to use trucks to move staple foods and exports across Liberia's road system create a great amount of business problems. For promotion strategies, due to a limited online presence, they concentrate on television ads and newspapers. They use street methods of advertising to promote businesses, outdoor events, and branding assets. For supply chain strategies, the USA worked with the Liberian National Drug Service. It was put in place to improve the availability and access to life-saving health commodities. Strategies consist of improving storage, distribution activities, and efficient supply chain assistance. I will now be passing it to my colleague, Tavia.
So after concluding our analysis for the country of Liberia, there were two countries that we decided should consider investing into the country. These two companies were BPI Medical and Alliance Tech. BPI Medical is a company that focuses on pharmaceuticals and medical equipment. And due to Liberia's weak healthcare infrastructure, we felt that BPI Medical could help with investing their manufactured and distribution for diagnosis equipment. And with BPI Medical, they will show success in their major investment due to the ability to provide the proper healthcare that Liberia needs. It will help strengthen the health system that Liberia is lacking, and it will help prepare Liberia for future pandemics and health discrepancies. With Alliance Tech, this company is a company that specializes in software development, IT infrastructure, and other telecommunication services. Being that Liberia has a small population, they have a higher need for these telecommunication needs within their country. And if Alliance Tech were to consider investing to the company, they will open themselves for a successful partnership and entry within the telecommunications market. And Liberia shows a strong interest in assisting with high-speed internet. So Alliance Tech could help fill this need by providing that internet system and system development for their investment opportunity. And that concludes our PESTEL analysis for the country of Liberia. And these are our sources.